Hey, Bear fans, welcome to Ultimate Insider, Bear Insiders podcast. I am Mike Pawlawski, former Cal quarterback, radio analyst, and Hall of Famer. And today we're talking about a game versus San Diego State that was brutal. Bears got absolutely shellacked down in San Diego, 34-0. And quite honestly, it's one of the worst showings that I've seen by a Cal football team in years maybe ever, but for years, for sure. And it was something, boy. There were mistakes across the board from, I always talk about the O-line when it's good and why it matters. And so mistakes on the O-line, from false start penalties to holding penalties to missed assignments to, mental busts, all kinds of stuff up there, to wide receivers dropping balls, wide receivers jumping off sides, running backs making mistakes, running backs putting the ball on the ground, a costly turnover for a scoop and score. So that led to 6 points for San Diego State. Young quarterback making mistakes too, looking like a very young quarterback in this game. At times there were great throws, but at times he looked like a very young quarterback. And so there were mental busts across the board. Defensively, Justin Wilcox defenses are usually very sound in terms of run fits, and you'll get one or two a game, which you can understand because the game is fluid and things happen. But quite honestly, the Bears were not in their run fits all game long. And I just think they were busts there. There's busts in coverage for a big fade. There's kind of blame to go across the board. Linebackers who, usually are the strength of the defense, linebacking spot did not play great in this game. So I'm not going to call out anybody individually in this one, but there were just busts across the board. And so rather than get into kind of a breakdown of what everybody did wrong and what, just know the whole team came out. And it's what people at home would call flat. And it's, I guess it's an apt description. But what it comes down to really is mental skills. It comes down to a team that mentally wasn't prepared for that game. And there's a state when it comes to mindset and how you prepare for a game between arousal, which is right where you want to be. You want to be in that state of arousal. In fight or flight, when it kicks in, your nervous system has to be geared up. You want all the stress hormones, you want everything there. But then you don't want to get into hypervigilance where you're too worried, where you're too concerned, where everything starts to spin. I don't think that was the case in this game. Then there's a state between arousal. Again, ideal is arousal. You need to be aroused for a game. You need to be up for a game, and complacency. And so when you are not 100% dialed into the game that's coming, when you are not 100% dialed into your assignment, when you are not 100% dialed into what it is that you have to accomplish on this play, the very next play, then you lose. The game of college football, it is too competitive. It is too close. I don't care whether you're talking about San Diego State, Texas Southern, Minnesota, or Alabama. The skill sets are too close for people to not be dialed in for every single play. I'll tell you a story from back in my playing days. I was not a freak about games, but what I was a freak about was being in with my team, being dialed into my assignment, understanding what it is that I had to accomplish, and going over that and repeating it and visualizing it and doing all the things that you need to do in order to have success. You see, football is like life concentrated. You face these emotions, you face these challenges, you face this opposition, you face this resistance, but you face it in super high stakes. You face it in just instant decisions that have to be made, and they have to be made on the basis of recognition, pattern recognition, and response, period. You can't stop to think about a ton of these things. You need to be able to see it, react, and make it happen. And that takes a ton of training. It takes a ton of mental preparation. It takes a ton of intentional focus on what you're doing. And so as a player, when it came to games, my parents would always come to town. They would come to all the games. They traveled to all the, they're part of the Barents crew, which was awesome, and loved it. But I wouldn't talk to my parents the day before a game. I wouldn't go see them. I wouldn't hang out at the hotel. I wouldn't do any of those things. And if it was a road game and I did happen to see him in the hotel, I'd give him a kiss and that'd be it. I'd say, hey, good to see you. And I'd keep moving, because my focus was on what I had to do the next day. You see, I had a job. And even though we weren't paid back then as players, My job was to be absolutely prepared, to be ready for the next game, be ready for the first snap, be ready for my first assignment. And so I did that. And intellectually, I knew that if I were to give energy to something else, if I were to give energy to trying to get tickets, to being the ticket broker, if I were to give energy to trying to entertain people who are coming into town for the game, then that's taking energy away from my preparation for the game. Now, after the game, I would go love all my parents. We would hang out. I would just have a great time. It was fantastic, and I loved it. But all the way up from the time that I was at Cal to the time that I got done playing, when my friends, when my family would come into town, I would always see them after the game, and I would focus on my job. And I think in this game in San Diego, whether people were seeing, family, whether people were being ticket brokers, whether people were, whatever they were doing, they clearly didn't have the attention on what they needed to have on the game, getting themselves mentally, physically, emotionally prepared for what was about to happen in the game. Because you had mental busts, jumping off sides, unforced errors, procedure penalties, unforced error. If you're moving before the ball, that's on you because you're not ready, because you've talked yourself into something, because you're not focused on the moment. If you are not fitting your gap in run fits, that's on you. Yeah, they're trying to block you, but if you are not in that gap, taking on the block or doing what you need to do to make that play, then that's on you. These are things that you control. And so as a player, what you need to do is control the controllables. You need to be in charge of your preparation. You need to be in charge of your attitude. You need to be in charge of the way that you show up on game day. And so I kind of went on my soapbox here, but that's the deal. And the thing is, you can't be distracted from that job. You can't, it's human nature to say, oh, look, we're 3-0. We're great. We're just going to come out here and do it. College football, if you are not dialed into what you are doing every single moment, it will expose you as a fraud. It will show where you lacked preparation. Quite honestly, it showed up in this game. There are coaches around the country who like to MF players, right? They will jump them, they will ride them, they will yell at them, they will scream at them. I always hated those coaches because I was harder on myself. I dialed myself in. I was the one who was my biggest critic. And so if anybody wanted to yell at me, I was going to yell at me first. And I don't think, maybe there's guys like that. Maybe that's how they learn, but screaming isn't coaching. And I don't think any good coach wants to be the guy who's yelling at his team all the time. I know for a fact Justin Wilcox is not that kind of guy. And so if you're that kind of guy who is screaming and yelling and challenging and threatening, and it makes life miserable. And why do you want to be that guy as a coach? It doesn't make any sense. But you want to be the guy who helps motivate and prepare and get guys going. And part of that has to be taken on by the players. Like I said, when I was in college, I was doing these things. When I was in college, I was seeking out the help to become a better player. I was doing the mental reps. I was doing the training. I was doing the visualizations. I was taking it upon myself to get myself dialed in for every single game. And so what lacks when you see a game like that where a team comes out flat is, and it was across the board. It wasn't just one position group. It was position group after position group making mistakes, is that preparation. It's that being so dialed in that when the moment rises, the next play, you make the play. That's what was missing. And yeah, do they still perform at a high level? Yeah, they're college football players. They're going to perform at a high level every game, period. But when you are not mentally giving yourself the edge to be at your absolute peak, where you don't make the mistake, where you don't lack the focus to get it done, where you understand every read, where you understand everything you're going to see, then you're not being accountable to your team. You're not being accountable to your school. And so that is, from a former player who's now in the Hall of Fame, who won a world championship, who won 2 bowl games. That's what it takes. That's what it's about. These guys are pros now. They're getting paid to play this game. And if they are not putting in that kind of commitment, if they're not putting in that kind of effort, then we should expect more. That's really what it is. And I expect more for these guys because they, listen, they're part of the brotherhood now. They're all Cal football players, and I love them, and it's great, but I expect more from them. I expect them to step up, to play better, to be better, because not only do they get the privilege of wearing that Cal jersey, of putting Cal on the side of their helmet, of playing at my alma mater, but they also get paid for it these days. And that's a huge difference from when we played. I knew a bunch of dudes that I played with who got themselves ready day in, day out, every single day. And we never missed. My senior year, we never missed on the downside. We never missed because we were complacent. Now, did we miss because we were hyper aroused? Yeah, probably. That Stanford game was probably a good explanation for that. But we never missed on the low side. And so these guys need to learn to be pros, to play like pros, to practice like pros, to act like pros, to do the work week in, week out to get it done. They're getting paid. They need to put the emphasis on making it happen. That's my rant. Sorry, went off a little bit, but the mental skills part of the game to me is the most important part of the game. I love X's and O's. For all of you guys that watch me drop my pause play of the week, I love it. I love X's and O's. They're great. But the mental skills aspect of the game is the most important aspect of the game. Because without that, you're not doing the prep. You're not learning the skills. You're not developing the habits that help you win on game day. You are not developing the pattern recognition to help you perform in the instant that it's happening. All the guys that I work with, and I work with some pretty good guys across the country right now, that's what we train on, is getting guys prepared to play week in, week out, snap in, snap out, every single play so that you are dialed in to perform at the peak of your game in that moment. And if you're not doing that, as a college football player, then you are selling yourself, your team, and your school short. All right. That said, I talked to Coach Wilcox this week. That was my rant, a little mental skills, a motivational speech for you guys today. I hope you're all pumped up. Let's take a look at my talk with Coach Wilcox. Joining me now, head coach Justin Wilcox. And Coach, it was a tough one in San Diego this week. So rather than kind of preamble, just tell me your thoughts after watching game film with a couple days.
Yeah, we played very, very poorly. There was a handful of good plays, but overall, offensively, just, 10 out of 11 guys doing the right thing and one guy not, and it costing us on that play. Sometimes you get lucky and the one mistake that's made doesn't show up, but it showed up, seemed like every time. We really didn't do much of anything very well. The special teams, we had errors. We had a punt return that was going to be a big play that we blocked a guy in the back. Then we had a missed assignment on a punt cover. That was a huge play, and our field goal team, we didn't connect, which was a first. And then defensively, it was line of scrimmage wasn't good, missed tackles. We missed more run fits this game than we had in I don't know how long. Not on anything that was too unique. So, yeah, the big box fade for 80 yards is an issue. So, it was just bad football. The difference between good and average and bad is not very much, and that was a lesson learned for the entire team. Certainly we didn't anticipate that. We thought the week of practice was energetic, but if you're not 100% dialed and focused and intensity and detail playing this game, if you disrespect the game, it'll disrespect you back. And unfortunately it happened to a few people, and it was a very poor performance, which ultimately is my job, is to take responsibility for the performance of the team, and it was terrible.
Yeah, there's no doubt that this game will expose the flaws in your preparation, in your mindset, in whatever you're doing. Football has a way of doing that. And it's interesting that it was not just one position or one phase. Like sometimes a team will switch things up on you, you're not ready for it. But it was kind of in across the board. You just pointed out offense, defense, special teams, kind of everywhere. And I asked you after the game, was there anything that you saw that you led up to it? Everybody can kind of predict. Do you think three guys, they work hard, but they're not dialed into it mentally? What would explain kind of across the board like that?
I don't know if there's any one reason. It's the individuals it's individuals' job to prepare themselves to perform. We have to do a great job in practice of structuring the week, messaging, what we're emphasizing, so that we are as prepared as we possibly can every single week. Were we perfect in practice last week? No. Did we practice in a way that would have indicated we would play like we did? Absolutely not, because we wouldn't allow that. Unfortunately, in the game, we faced some adversity, and it was, like I said, whether it's drop passes, pre-snap penalties, missed tackle, line of scrimmage miss, you name it, a special teams error, and we did not play ourselves out of that. And we had opportunities. I mean, heck, we're down 13 at halftime, and we go out and take the ball, and the very first play we complete it, and we get an 8 or 9 yard gain. We have second short, and we hold the guy unnecessarily. And then you're 1st and 20. You punt from the shadow of your own end zone. So, I mean, or no, we were down, I guess, whatever it was, 10. It's just like we never created any momentum offensively. They scored 2 times on turnovers. So there's 14 points in the game where the defense wasn't even on the field. That's not good. I mean, you're not going to win being -3, giving two up for touchdowns, and then the defense gave up 2 long drives for touchdowns, one with an 80-yard big box fade jump ball. You're not going to win. So I don't care who you're playing. Everybody's plenty good enough. And so there wasn't one thing. I wish there was, because then you say, wait, we just need to do this one drill, or hey, this is one thing mentally that everybody was lacking. And it's not. It's everybody taking ownership and preparing, and then ultimately applying the week to the game. It's not just going to happen because you practiced it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. They were a pressure team. You knew that going in. They were going to do some things differently than you had seen. A lot of RPO, kind of what you expected going into that game. Talk about the young quarterback in this game. There were times when he made some throws that were fantastic throws. Again, there were times when he looked like a freshman quarterback.
I think you hit it on the head. I mean, there's still some throws in there that are phenomenal. Unfortunately, we had a few early that we dropped. We can certainly make those catches. I mean, that changes potentially the tenor of the entire game. But there was times in Jaron, then we got maybe a little bit greedy or anxious and trying to hit a big play every time, as opposed to just taking the first read and getting 6 yards, 8 yards, 12 yards. And so I think there's a lot to learn from that. Hanging in there, there was times when he had to escape the pocket because we didn't protect well enough. And there was times that he probably could have hung in there and delivered it. And so Jaron will learn a lot. He's got the right mentality. Jaron's going to be just fine. He didn't play his best game, but I mean, I could probably say that for most everybody. So it wasn't just him. Unfortunately, the quarterback's always going to, take on a lot of responsibility, as you know.
Yeah, for sure. And the drop passes, the missed protections, running backs not doing the right thing. They don't show up. The drop passes do, but the other things just don't show up. So people kind of look at the quarterback, they're like, oh, why isn't he doing it? Well, because there's a ton of other, there's 10 other moving parts out there on the field that have to make it happen. Let's talk about those drop passes by Mark Hamper. That's 3 now over his right shoulder, coming from a left-handed quarterback. I know he's taken a ton of catches from him. What's the adjustment for that?
Well, I mean, there's 2 ways to go about it. You either improve upon it. Mark's plenty capable of catching the ball. We see him do it all the time in practice. I don't know that he dropped a ball all fall camp, right shoulder, left shoulder. He's a little dinged up. He's competing his way through it. There's probably some things we can do in terms of reps to take a little of that off him. Do you start flipping him sides because of where the ball's coming from? Then that gets a little challenging just for if you want to do things on offense. So I think Mark is certainly capable of playing himself through that and catching the next ball that's thrown to him.
Yeah, I mean, he's such a skilled wide receiver. It's just, as you can tell, for me, guys, when I coach quarterbacks, it's the lefties spin it different. You'll see guys drop easy balls because they're coming from a lefty. And so if you don't have that experience and you haven't done a ton of it, sometimes that shows up. But that's been just 3 to me that I noticed. Talk about the offensive line. Some issues up there. You've been kind of trying to work through it. This is the second time in a row that you had the same starting offensive line, but you get a couple false start penalties. You get a couple holding penalties, like you said, needless holding penalties. What is going on up front with the offensive line?
Well, those guys we got to play better. And it's ultimately starts with me, making sure they have everything they need from a preparation standpoint, drill work, schematic knowledge, fundamentals that Coach Anaya is working with them on, and then their mentality, which is so critical at that position, on how you play the game, how physical it needs to be, the intensity you need to play with, and being able to do that for 75 snaps over and over and over again, regardless of, how tired you might be, how good or the opponent might be. It's a mentality, and that mentality at O-line can permeate throughout the team. And when it's right, your team feels it, not just the O-line. And so we got to make improvements there.
And finally, you talked about run fits on defense. Something that your team is really good at, generally speaking. You'll see 1 or 2 run fits a game where it shows up. but there were a lot in this game based on a team that you knew that was going to try to RPO, you try to run the ball a lot. Any explanation in terms of run fits, what was going on, or was it just individual guys making mistakes?
Yeah, I mean, we got to obviously do a better job coaching it. There was things that we saw the first play of the game that we have repped 1,000 times. I mean, and we made the mistake. So if we made the mistake, then the coach has got to own, okay, what is it? It's not because they haven't seen that before. I mean, it's 3-by-1 Y off split zone look. Yeah, they whammed them, but it's all split zone. It's all the same. Why did we misfit that? I mean, that is day one. So where were we at mentally pregame, during the game? Because we repped it in practice. So coaches, that's our job to make sure that the players get that. And then the players, there's responsibility there too, that they, take ownership in their focus, because I think everybody on the defense, including the guys in there, could draw that play up in their sleep. But we misfit it the very first play of the game.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Players have to take responsibility for it, right? I know you're doing the thing where coaches have to take responsibility for it, but guys have to step up and kind of own what they do too. And especially in this day and age of, paid college football players, these guys are supposed to be pros now. They need to step up and take some responsibility for the action. Okay, well, kind of last question on San Diego State. What does a team take from that? How do you drive that home? I mean, because your point about any college football team can expose you is a very real point. And unless they get that point, to get that focus back, how do you drive that home to this team?
Well, if you don't have it after experiencing that, then you're in the wrong sport or you're on the wrong team. I mean, if the lesson wasn't learned there, it won't be learned. We had an opportunity last Saturday to go down and prove that we're a better team than we played than we were the week prior, and we did not do that. So that opportunity, we failed, and that was a missed opportunity, and it's gone, and you do not get it back. So the natural response is, well, we have to. The natural thing to say for everybody is we got to respond, and everybody said that. I say it, and they say it. That's the right thing. But what has to happen is that the individuals, all of us, do everything in our power so it doesn't happen ever again. But if you're not humble, like I think I said at postgame, if you disrespect the game, it'll disrespect you right back. And I don't care who you're playing. San Diego State's they got good players and good coaches, but the game of football needs to be respected every time you step on that field to compete. And if you disrespect it, one guy out of 11, you get exposed. And if you didn't learn that lesson this past game, then you're not a person that can learn that lesson. You need to not play or play somewhere else.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt about it. This game will rattle you to your bolts if you're not ready for it. And so obviously a few of those players saw it last weekend. Let's talk about the game coming up. You got Boston College, first big trip cross country. Watched a little bit of film on them. They look pretty athletic, especially on offense, that they can go get that ball, quarterback who can sling it. Talk about what you see out of Boston College.
Yeah, really good offensively. Coach O'Brien, I mean, his resume speaks for itself. And they've done a good job of using the players they have, because last year, the groupings were a bit different. Some of the run schemes were a little bit different. He's a really good coach. Quarterback play is always going to be at a high level there. Their quarterback's playing excellent. They got good wideouts. They're good at running back. The tight end's a good player. And then their O-line ties it all together. So they're very well coordinated, and they're performing at a high level offensively.
So what is the key for your defense in this game? Obviously, you have to match up. They got big athletic wide receivers, not just little guys. They got
starting the line of scrimmage. Like, we're going to have to, they've thrown the ball really well, but you still have to play well up front. I mean, whether it's the run game or affecting the quarterback in the pass game, you can't go out there, even if it's the pass game, and you can't go out there and have it look like 7-on-7 for the quarterback. Okay. So there's got to be one-on-one wins in the run and the pass game up front, because you can't overload every protection and you can't double every receiver. So the same can be said in the back end. There's times when the stress is going to be on the nickel or the right corner or the left corner or the boundary safety or the field safety. The stress is going to get moved, but it's going to be on somebody. And if the play goes in that direction, then that player is still expected to compete in a one-on-one situation and make the play.
Yeah, for sure. And then their defense versus your offense. One of the big things, obviously, get your freshman quarterback kind of playing at the high level that he's capable of, because he's capable of pretty amazing things. Like, he can be a pretty special football player out there. Kind of get him up to speed in terms of checkdowns and everything else. Where else do you have to win on offense?
Line of scrimmage. Starts at the line of scrimmage. as you know, Mike, if you're going to run it 50 times or throw it 50 times, either way, you got it. It starts up front. We can't be an effective offense without being good up front. So our O-line play, the blocking, just in general, from everybody, tight ends, O-line, receivers, whoever needs to block. And then when we have opportunities to get in one-on-one situations, contested catches, throws and catches, one-on-one runs where we have to break a tackle or make somebody miss. Those are the type of plays. Because there's only so many schemes when you're on offense, when you get, a guy's running free down the middle of the field. It doesn't happen all that much.
Right.
You know, it's the same on defense. Like, yeah, you want to overload every protection, so you got a free runner. Like, okay, great. Anybody can make those sacks. It's like, you got to win. One-on-one wins.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, Coach. I'll let you get back to it. Long travel this week, so good luck in preparation. I'll see you on the trip.
Thanks, Mike.
So that's Travers Family head football coach Justin Wilcox, and I think Coach kind of put it in perspective there. Guys have to take accountability for themselves. I think Coach, he was taking some of it. He's taking a lot of it on himself, but a lot of these players have to take accountability for themselves. They have to go out and be pros about their game. They have to put in the focus on this. And Coach said it, if this game getting handled down in San Diego doesn't change the way you prepare for a game, then nothing will. And you're probably not a college football player. It's not in your nature, because I would take this personal if I were a player having had that kind of game, whether I made a mistake or not. There were some guys that didn't make mistakes. There were some guys that played really well, but it was across the board mistakes. And so everybody needs to take that game personally, and they need to step up their vigilance about preparing for the next game and holding their teammates accountable. It's a big thing nowadays, just on political sentiments out there of holding your teammates accountable. It's the one thing that I still love about elite athletics and sports, is that you are accountable to your teammates. You have to be there for each other, and you have to prepare for each other as much as you prepare for yourself. And so living up to a standard, the saying around the locker room this year was, the standard is a standard. You hear it all over college football. Well, Bears fell below the standard last week. That standard needs to come up. Players need to get there. So that said, this week they got a big test. BC. Going on the road oftentimes will help a team circle the wagons, will help them come together to be together as a team and to find focus on the moment. And so traveling, 3,500 miles, whatever it is, back to Boston, to go into a hostile environment to play. And Boston is a hostile environment. I spent some time back there this summer, and literally everybody there wants to honk at you while you're driving your car. Everybody there, on the roads at least, was pissed. The people were nice enough, but the fans are going to be Northeast fans, and Northeast fans can be absolutely brutal. So it is a hostile environment. It's time for the Bears to circle the wagons, to come together as a team, and to play better this game, because they did not play up to their potential. I can talk about mindset. I can talk about getting ready, but I do believe this team has potential to be an 8-win, 9-win team. They just let one slip last game. And that's a huge one, because every game counts when it comes to bowls, when it comes to national rankings, to everything. Every game counts, and you cannot lose a game to San Diego State, especially not like that, and expect it not to leave a mark. So, okay, Boston College, what do we know? They have really good wide receivers. You're going to see guys on the offensive side of the ball. Their quarterback, Dylan Lonergan, is a really good football player. Nick Saban actually wrote about him in his book, that he had all these guys that were future NFL players in the locker room, and he wanted to start Lonergan and got talked out of it at Alabama. So a really good football player in Dylan Lonergan came up to Boston College, and he can spin it now. He can throw that football. So he looks very efficient as a quarterback. He does make some mistakes. He threw a pick 6 against Stanford. So something to look out for. If you can put some pressure on him, get him off platform, get him uncomfortable, there's a chance to get a takeaway out of it. But receivers, like I was talking about, number 11, Lewis Bond, is going to be the first guy that you're going to look at. This guy is going to end up as BC's all-time leading receiver. He's just a phenomenal football player. He's averaging almost 10 catches a game right now. He gets open. He runs good routes. And the coaches at BC expect him to be a long-time pro. So there's a guy you got to keep an eye on, number 11, Lewis Bond. Number 1, Jaden Skeet, which is a great name for a dude of his abilities. 6'2", 188, but he can flat out fly. This guy can run. So the Bears have to be really good if they decide to go man coverage to figure out a way to lock that down. But he can fly. He's a threat. He's already got 3 touchdowns on the year. Number 17, Jeremiah Franklin, is another big body, 6'3", 244 tight end who can run, who can block, who can catch. Made a phenomenal catch in the Stanford game, just going up, climbing the ladder for the ball. So another dude who can attack you in that passing game, who's a really good football player for them. So those are some of the guys that you're going to see. Reed Harris, number 4, missed him, 6'5", 217. He's a matchup nightmare because of his height, and he can run too. So these guys are tough. The way you negate that is as a defensive line, as a defense, you get pressure on the quarterback. You get him off his platform. You make him uncomfortable. So the Bears have to do that up front. They did not win up front last game. They have to win up front in this game. The 2 running backs that are both really good for Boston College. You're going to see Jordan McDonald, number 5. He's listed as the starter, but it's an or. And Turbo Richard, number 2, is also good. Turbo Richard's got some skills now, but he has 2 fumbles in the last 2 games, both of which were big-time fumbles. Fumbled going in on the 1-yard line versus Michigan State and then had a fumble versus Stanford. So coaches may not be super happy with him, may see more Jordan McDonald in this game. Then they got a couple guys behind him that are really good. Defensively for Boston College, there's a middle linebacker, number 33, Owen McGowan. This guy is a dude that's just scrappy all over the field, going to make 10, 11 tackles. He's that kind of football player. Bears have to figure out a way to get him blocked. Free safety for them, Omar Thornton, number 0, good football player. He's another guy who's potentially going to be an all-ACC type of player. He's out there. He makes plays. He's kind of the roving guy in the middle because they love to play a ton of man on the outside. They're going to lock down. They're going to challenge you for the ball like Utah used to do. And so they're going to compete to keep the ball away from you every single play. Rather than playing zone and hitting the ball, they're going to compete to keep the ball, deny you the ball on every play. And so it gives you an opportunity to make some plays now. You can get some big ones over the top. You can hit some corner routes, some go routes, some big box fades, that slot fade from the inside. So there's all kinds of things you can do if you're going to get that kind of coverage. The Bears just have to take advantage of it. They have to catch the ball when it's thrown to them. They can't be dropping balls again. And so they have to be on their game against Boston College, or else they're going to drop 2 in a row. So I would expect that they'd be up for this game after a game like last week. If they're not, then there's something wrong. If I were one of them, I'd be pissed about that last game. And I would make a point there would be no stone left unturned to make that happen. So anyway, that's enough of me for today. I appreciate you guys listening. Don't forget, I've got Pause Plays of the Week coming out. That'll be tomorrow or the next day coming out. But check that out. I'm going to show you a couple plays during the game that could have changed the tide, that would have changed the tide, or that were good plays that I liked. I'm not going to go, you've heard my motivational speech here today. I'm not going to go off the rails on this thing. But this team has to mentally get themselves together. The mental skills have to come together for this team. In part, it's coaching. And if you have to yell at them, you have to yell at them. No coach, I don't think any, good-natured coach wants to do that. But they need to take it upon themselves to be professional, because that's a huge piece of being a college athlete, becoming an elite athlete, is knowing how to mentally regulate, emotionally regulate for the game, and be dialed in doing all the prep that you have to do to play at your absolute peak. So that's the mental skills motivational talk for today. Appreciate you guys listening. By the way, if any of you guys want to bring me in to talk to your companies, I also do motivational speaking on the outside, but that's the lesson. That's the lesson that sports teaches you. And right now, this team needs to learn that they need to be responsible for themselves to make that happen. Appreciate you watching. I'll catch you guys back at BC. You can listen to our broadcast, KSFO 810. Game kicks off at 3:30 East Coast time. So I look forward to hearing from you guys. I look forward to seeing how the Bears show up this week. It'll tell us a lot about the team that we have in front of us. As always, until then, go Bears. I'm Mike Pawlawski for Bear Insider. I'll catch you next week.